We did this napkin. I got to show you this napkin real quick. So here's a napkin. All right.
You draw that yourself?
I did actually. Yeah,
That's
thanks.
nice, man.
Well, I said thanks before you even said it was nice. My bad.
Yeah, you draw that yourself. Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you could have said it looked like your kids or something. Yeah, it was no, a mosquito dipped his butt in ink and crawled across a napkin. No, here's what we did. This is actually a really good story. So, I go to lunch with a buddy of mine, and I'm processing this relationships win framework. He's a sales guy. We're having some sushi, having a good time, and so I'm just like, hey, can I try something on you? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I took the napkin out and I drew a baseball diamond, and I drew the relationships win framework. And I won't talk about the whole thing, but we just did on the podcast before. And I drew it, and at the end of it, he goes, we were getting up to leave, we paid everything, and we're walking up, and he goes, hey, can I keep that napkin? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I go back to our team, and I'm like, you'll never guess what happened. And they say, well, that's where all great ideas start, is on a napkin. And all of a sudden I'm like, yes. So I went on my iPad and I drew this, and then we sent it to the print shop, and they actually put them on napkins, like these little cocktail napkins. And we handed those out at the mixer. And for those that hadn't listened to the previous podcast, and for those that weren't at the mixer, I will share a little bit. It's the relationships win framework. It's how to build relationships. It's how to sell something through building relationships. And the first half is just being a great human. You got to go make connections with people. That's first base. Second base is you got to go you got to connect with people. And then the second base is you got to have conversations. And by doing that, that's just being a good human. And then by the time you get to the conversation level, what happens is if you're starting to display your character, they're going to trust you. You're building your brand, right, through work. And then eventually there's going to be an introduction. There's going to be a problem that you can solve through these conversations that people pick up on. If you're good at what you do, right? Like one of our mission is we like to help people save time, reduce their stress, and help them keep as much money in their pocket as we possibly can. And so if somebody needs to move and that's exciting to them, they want to reduce some stress and save some money, then great. We probably can solve that problem for them. And so then once we have these conversations and the introductions are made, then you got to be great at your craft. You got to serve people really well, and then the sale happens. But when you go from connections to home plate to make a sale, that's transactional. And so I think, there's a faith component to this, right? And I'm not necessarily talking about, a religious component, but for me it is. My faith tradition is, I have faith and hope that there's somebody bigger than me and I'm not him. And at the end of the day, I have to have the faith that the work that I'm doing, the service that I provide other people, will come back. I'm thinking like the farmer. I'm planting seeds. Every time I connect with somebody, I'm planting seeds. And you know what I'm not doing? I'm not clenching my fist with control of that seed is the one that's going to harvest. The wind and the rain are going to get some of those seeds. The birds are going to get some of those seeds. Not every single seed I plant is going to work out.
I think the ironic thing is, and this is a little tangent, but the more I find that I try to clench and control, just the more stress and anxiety I get, because the reality is, Brad, we're out of control of some of that landing on a home plate, right? What we can control, I think, is first, second, maybe even third. Like, hey, we can control how we're interacting and how we are helping people. We can't control that home plate.
Never. Just like a farmer. I can't control if there's a tornado that goes through my field. I can't control the weather. What can you control? Well, it goes back to like why we did this podcast in the first place. The whole theory behind student of the game is you got to master the fundamentals. And then we don't say fall in love with outcomes. We say fall in love with practice. And the reason you have to fall in love with practice is because you're going to spend most of the time on that plateau. You're going to spend most of your time practicing. You're going to spend most of your time connecting and having conversations. If you don't love that, go to the factory.
Yeah.
Right? Like go do something that's mindless work. Nothing wrong with that. We all need manufacturing, but the reality is if people listening to this are small business owners or salespeople, they're people that have big goals, like that's the most important thing is fall in love with the practice, because that's where you stay. And then that's where you get to win in the game of life.